The night rain fell in silver sheets against the airport glass, washing the world in streaks of reflection and loneliness. Daniel sat slumped on a metal bench near Gate 42, his 5-year-old daughter asleep on his lap, her tiny hand curled around his thumb. He looked exhausted, not from the flight delays, but from life itself. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair uncombed, and the circles under his eyes carried the story of a man who'd been holding everything together with quiet, trembling strength. He wasn't supposed to be here tonight. He was supposed to be home, tucking Emily into bed with her favorite bedtime story. But life rarely listened to plans. He had lost his job 3 months ago, and since then, every day had been a careful dance between paying bills and keeping his daughter smiling. Tonight, they were flying to Chicago for a job interview. One last chance, he told himself. One last attempt to start again. As he looked around, he noticed a woman sitting 2 seats away. She wasn't crying, but her silence was loud. Her eyes, distant, almost broken, were fixed on the window where planes rose and vanished into the rain. She looked powerful yet fragile, like someone who had built an empire but lost the reason for building it. Her coat was expensive, her posture elegant, but her loneliness filled the air like perfume. And that's when Daniel did something he never thought he would. He looked at her, then gently said, "You okay? If you believe that small acts of kindness can change lives, that sometimes strangers meet for a reason, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us share more stories of hope and second chances." She didn't respond at first. For a long moment, she simply kept staring at the window. Then she turned to him, her eyes glistening in the soft blue airport light. "I'm fine," she whispered. But she wasn't. Anyone could see that. Daniel nodded, offering a faint, understanding smile. "That's what I always say too," he murmured. She looked at him again, maybe surprised by his gentleness. Then her eyes fell on Emily, asleep in his arms, her tiny face resting against his chest. Something in that small, innocent image made the woman's lips tremble. "Your daughter?" she asked softly. "Yeah," he said. "She's my whole world." For the next few minutes, neither of them spoke. The airport announcements echoed above. People passed by dragging luggage, but somehow it felt like time had slowed around them. Finally, the woman exhaled, the weight in her chest spilling into her voice. "I lost someone," she said quietly. "Someone I built everything for." Daniel didn't know what to say, but he knew how that kind of emptiness felt. "I'm sorry," he said simply. She nodded, brushing away a tear. "It's strange," she continued. "You can have everything, money, power, respect. But when love walks away, all of it feels meaningless." Her words cut through him like glass. He'd been there once, when Emily's mother left. She'd said she couldn't handle the struggles anymore. She wanted freedom, travel, life. And he had stayed behind, raising their daughter alone, juggling work and fatherhood, wondering if he'd been too ordinary to be loved. Sometimes, Daniel said quietly, the people who walk away don't realize how strong they make us. For the first time, she smiled faintly. "You talk like someone who knows pain." "I do," he admitted, "but I also know healing comes in unexpected places." The woman turned to him fully now, studying his tired but kind face. "What's your name?" "Daniel, I'm Claire," she said, offering her hand. He noticed how cold it was, like her warmth had been locked away for too long. They sat there talking while the rain drummed softly against the windows. Claire told him she had just come from a funeral, her fiancé's. He'd died in an accident a week before their wedding. She'd been planning to step down from her position as CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the country to start a family with him. Now, she did, to even know who she was without him. Daniel listened, really listened, not as a stranger but as someone who understood the silent wars people fight behind calm smiles. And when she began to cry quietly, he did try to stop her. He just sat there, steady and kind, letting her grief breathe. Hours passed. Emily woke up once, rubbing her eyes, and Claire smiled weakly at her. "You have a beautiful daughter," she said. "She is the reason I keep trying," Daniel replied. "Trying for what?" "For a life that still feels worth living." Claire, as gaze softened. For years, her world had been numbers, board meetings, and investors. No one had ever spoken to her with such simple honesty. "You sound like a good father." "I'm trying to be," he said, glancing at Emily. "It is not easy. Lost my job recently, but I am heading to an interview tomorrow. Maybe things will finally change." She studied him for a moment, this man with tired eyes and calloused hands who still believed in trying. It struck her that he had nothing, yet carried himself with more dignity than the billionaire she met daily. When the boarding announcement finally came, they stood. She reached into her bag, took out her business card and handed it to him. "If you ever need anything," she said, "call me." Daniel smiled politely. He didn't even look at the card. "Thank you," he said, "but I think I already got what I needed tonight." She tilted her head. "What is that?" "Hope," he said. Then he walked away with Emily, never noticing the name printed on the card. Claire Winton, CEO of Winton Technologies. The next day, Daniel's interview did go well. They told him they'd keep his resume on file, which was the polite way of saying no. He returned to the motel, staring at Emily as she colored in her notebook, her little world still bright and untouched by disappointment. That night, he looked at the card again, the one Claire had given him. Maybe, he thought, he could call her. Not for help, but just to thank her. But something inside him hesitated. She was clearly from another world, someone far beyond his reach. He put the card away and decided to move on. Days turned into weeks. The bills piled up. He picked up part-time jobs, delivering groceries, fixing things around the neighborhood, anything to keep Emily fed. But one evening as he was washing dishes, his phone rang from an unknown number. "Hello, is this Daniel?" A woman's voice asked. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Claire." He froze, the sound of her name instantly bringing back that rainy night. "I've been looking for you," she said softly. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said about trying, about hope." Daniel chuckled awkwardly. "Well, I didn't say much, just the truth, I guess." "I meant it," she said. "You reminded me that there are good people out there. People who care even when they have nothing to gain. I've been looking for someone like that." "Someone like what?" "Someone honest. Someone who understands struggle." "I have a proposal, Daniel. Not charity, an opportunity." He listened as she explained her idea. She wanted to start a new foundation under her company. One that would provide real jobs to single parents, giving them training and a chance to rebuild. And she wanted Daniel to help lead it. At first, he thought it was a cruel joke. But when she sent him the official documents and a plane ticket to meet her, he realized it was real. When Daniel and Emily arrived at the towering glass headquarters of Winton Technologies, he couldn't believe his eyes. The woman who sat across from him that night was now standing at the top of the corporate world, confident, graceful, but no longer hollow. She smiled as they met again. "I told you," she said. "Sometimes healing comes in unexpected places." He laughed softly. "I think you were right." Claire hired him on the spot, not because she pitied him, but because she saw in him something rare, sincerity. Over time, they worked together, side by side, building programs that changed lives. Every day, he saw more of the woman behind the CEO, the one who had once been broken but now glowed with newfound purpose. And every day, she saw the man who had taught her to believe in people again. Months passed, then a year. The foundation became one of the company's proudest achievements. Daniel grew into his role with humility and strength, and Claire grew into something more than just a leader. She became family. Emily adored her. She'd run into Claire's office with drawings, giggling, calling her Auntie Claire. And Claire would smile, her heart softening in ways she hadn't thought possible again. One evening, after a long event for the foundation, Daniel and Claire stood on the rooftop, watching the city lights flicker beneath a sky full of stars. The wind was cool, carrying the faint sound of life from the streets below. "You ever think about that night?" Daniel asked. Claire nodded. "Every day. It was the first night I felt seen again. You didn't know who I was, and yet you cared." He looked at her quietly. "Sometimes strangers meet for reasons we don't understand until later." She smiled. "And sometimes they stopped being strangers altogether." Their eyes met, and for a brief, quiet moment, it felt like two broken pieces of the world had found their way back to each other. Months later, the foundation celebrated its biggest milestone. Over 1,000 single parents given new beginnings. Daniel gave a speech that night, his voice steady but emotional. "This all started," he said, "because one person chose kindness when she could have chosen silence." He looked toward Claire, who was wiping tears from her eyes. The crowd applauded, and for Daniel, it wasn't just success. It was proof that sometimes life brings you to your lowest point, only so you can meet someone who will help you rise again. After the event, Claire stood beside him, watching Emily chase bubbles in the evening light. "You changed my life, Daniel," she said quietly. He smiled. "Funny, I was just about to say the same thing." She laughed softly, and for the first time since her fiancé's death, her laughter sounded whole. Free. As the lights dimmed and the stars began to appear, Daniel took a deep breath and whispered, Maybe that night at the airport wasn't an accident after all. Claire looked up at the sky, smiling. No, she said. It was perfect timing, as always. If this story touched your heart, if you believe kindness can change destinies, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more real, emotional stories to life. And before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe strangers can become the family we never expected?